Hey, my name's Craddock. I have helped thousands of people build wealth through buying and selling properties in real estate. So what I want to talk about today is this. What are the ways that I have leveled up and the way that I thought about life? Because, what was it? It was about just over a decade ago. I was doing what I love to do. I was in ministry, doing what I love to do, but I was making very little money, struggling. I didn't understand how money worked. Was still doing things like trying to sell my blood for $300 to NIH, right? Corrupt stuff labor, and to buy Christmas presents for my family. And as I started to study how money works and realize that money has a language, right? There is a language to it. Just like if I were to write a paper and I didn't understand the laws of grammar, it doesn't work, right? Anybody read it and say, oh my gosh, what is going on here? This is messed up. The same thing is true when we work with money. And just like, and if I drop something on the ground right now, boom, it falls to the ground because there is laws, rules. Gravity is it affecting the universe. And the same thing is true with money. And so one of the biggest areas that I started leveling up was I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And in that book, one of the first things that I saw that I thought was really interesting was Robert Kiyosaki said that the wealthy all have a corporation. And is that even if you have a W-2 job, they still have a separate corporation. And so that night I was having dinner with my uncle. Our family was having dinner together. And I thought it was really interesting. So I said to it, because he's a commercial loan officer, so he spends times with developers and just very high net worth people that were just crushing it at the time, in my opinion, and a lot of the weren't crushing it. But I asked him, I was like, Larry, I've read in this book that wealthy people all have their own corporation, even if they have a 9-to-5 W-2. I said, do the people that you work with typically have their own separate side corporations? And he said to me, well, of course. He's like, I've got my own side corporation. He said, I used to do appraisals forever, and I'll still do a couple a year just to keep my business open. And I said, oh, really? Well, what do you do with that? He said, this dinner tonight, I pick up the tab. We're talking business. We're having a business meeting. I'm going to just write it down. And he's like, I'm not cheating on my taxes. I am legitimately having a business meeting. He said, I have a vehicle that I use. It's a company car that I used for my appraisal business. He said, I'm able to write that off. We'll take all the depreciation in the first year because of the size of the vehicle. He said, what were some of the other things that he talked about? He talked about the fact that when they go on trips, right, family vacations, what they would do is they would look at the different places they would know me and say, how can I make this into a business trip? And they would make it into a business trip. The other piece was he had hired his kids in his business, right? So they were able to work in the business. Right now, the way it works is that the kids can get paid over $12,000 a year, and it's under the standard deduction amount. And so therefore, they can make that money completely tax-free. And you can use that $12,000 for a college fund. You can use that $12,000 for their sports, for vacation, for going out to dinner, all of the other pieces there. And so it was just really interesting because you realize that if you can save anywhere from, like 11 to 37% of every dollar you made by not paying taxes on that money in a way that's legit. I'll tell you, I never think anybody should cheat. You always look at what the code says and say, can I do this? Then you do it, then you can make a lot more money. So yeah, let's say you're in the top tax bracket. If you're saving 37%, I mean, how often would you, if you go to a grocery store, if you're going anywhere and they say, hey, 37% off, would you do that? But the key here is the government sees this and said, okay, we want to incentivize people to build their business. So we are going to give you these tax incentives if you build a business, because business owners typically hire other people, and then other people will make money from that. And then that money will get into the economy to boost everything that's going on. So that's what the government does that. And you realize that the wealthy have this language that they've been speaking for a long time. They all get it. They all understand this. That the poor and the middle class just don't understand. And so that's why it's so important for all of us to start thinking differently about money, because for the wealthy, money will work for them, right? For the middle class and the poor, you always are working for money, and then you end up spending that money. And the way that America typically works is you spend money you haven't earned yet, waiting for that money to come in that you are going to earn. And that's where it gets super scary. It's sketchy, because then you're paying, 18% interest on money that you have not earned yet to, essentially keep you poor for a long time. And see, that's another piece that's really important. So Dave Ramsey talks about debt, right? And he says that the debt is bad. Well, for the poor and the middle class, debt is bad, right? And because most of the time it's buying a car on credit, right? A car that you should be affording, but you want it, so you get it, right? I had a friend when I was in college who bought a $3,000 leather snakeskin belt, right? And he just swiped to his credit card, right? It was so crazy that he was going to buy that belt for that kind of money and to put it on his credit card. Well, he got tens of thousands of dollars of debt by the time he graduated college, because he was just swiping. And that kind of debt is bad, right? That is not good debt. But there's another kind of debt that is actually a tool. And see that the poor don't differentiate the difference between consumer debt and debt as a tool that can help you buy assets, right? So if you buy a property, and let's say you buy a $400,000 property and you take out a loan for $350,000, well, that debt is actually a tool that will help you grow your wealth, because you're buying an asset with it. If you buy a $400,000 car, most cars will go down in value, and so that's a liability, and it loses its value. And see, that's the difference. Now, how do the poor get out of being poor and start investing? Well, one, they've got to get around people like I did, and who are thinking differently about money and saying, hey, you got to save your money, you got to buy assets, right? So the poor, the whole thing is, hey, let me get out of debt. The middle class, the whole idea is, I'm gonna, get money and then I'm gonna buy things with money, and then if you're really lucky, you'll have a bunch of money saved up for retirement, and one day you'll be able to retire and have enough money to live well, right? But the reality is, if you want to live very well, then you can look at money now and say, okay, do I need to wait 30 years for this asset, or can I start buying assets now that will help me, and not just me, but the whole family, build legacy wealth? And so this is the language of the wealthy, is saying, okay, I save money, right, so that I can buy assets. I find deals, like undervalued deals, right? So this is an iPhone right here, right? The new iPhone, what is it, 14 Pro, whatever it is, Max, with a terabyte of data, or whatever, the most data that you can buy. This phone right here is, I don't know, but it's worth well over $1,000. Anybody watching this, if I were to say, hey, this phone right here, I will sell to you for $50 or $100, right? It's a new phone. I mean, I think there may be like one or two scratches here on the screen, but not broken screen, just like little wear and tear on it. But I would sell this to you for $50 or $100. Everybody says, yeah, I buy it. Heck, if somebody came to me and said that, I would buy their phone for $50 or $100, right? Why? Because I've got a phone, but you're buying an under the value deal. So the key in buying any asset is you win when you buy, right? So if you are buying at a discount, then you have a ton of options with it. You can buy it and keep your net worth higher, right? On a phone like that, it's gonna lose value over time. So if you can either buy it and sell the phone you have, or buy it and then resell it on Amazon or eBay or anything like that, and you're gonna make money on it. Well, the same thing's true with other assets. Think about a house, right? If you look at a house that's worth, let's call it $400,000, and somebody is willing to sell that house to you for $300,000 or $250,000, right? There are deals like that out there where people just want to cash out. And I could tell you story after story of times of people just wanted to cash out lease. if you want to win, what you would do is just say, okay, I will buy this property for $250,000, and then you find the people that have money, and like if you don't have the cash, that have money, and we'll do the deal with you. It's called a joint venture. So the first property I bought, it was when I was in ministry and I had no money, and I saw a property that was really great, and it was in a local college town where I knew a lot of people. I was in ministry that did campus ministry and looking for a house that they would live in. And so that house, we bought it in 2008. I found a business partner who I JD'd with. It was my mom, right? So I went to my mom and I said, hey, I know you have some money to invest. Would you be interested in buying this house with me? And I'll get the renters, I'll get other all the work. I found the house, the renters. Actually, here's a fun story about this house, and then I'll kind of wrap up what I'm talking about here. Was this house was not selling. I was able to buy it under market because the husband and wife were going through divorce. The wife was really angry at the husband because of something that he did. You can read between the lines about it. And so anytime there were showings and she got word of the showing, she would show up at the house, collect dog food, and smear it in between the mattresses, like all of the other places. So the house smelled terrible. And so I walked in to this house that was undervalued, and what everybody else saw as disgusting, I saw as opportunity. And so we were able to buy this house. We cleaned it up. You know what? It's not that hard to clean up dog food between mattresses. I'm not saying that. And for tens of thousands of dollars, that was a job at the time. I was willing out of doing now, for tens of thousands of dollars. But the reality was I was able to find a deal because everybody else saw, gross and disgusting things there, and I saw opportunity. And so we got the property. We've had 0 days vacancy since 2008 because of the fact that in that campus, that college community, there's just so many people that wanted to be in that house. And so that is how you win. You win when you buy, and you win when you get an asset that you can see value that other people don't, which was the college community. So with that said, that is how the wealthy think about money. When you start seeing money as a tool, and again, everybody says it's moral. I come from a Christian background, and a lot of people, money is the root of all evil. No. The love of life and the forsaking of everything else is the root of all evil, right? Like if you were just going after it for everything else. But money is a tool. It's like a brick where you can build a house, or you can throw it through a window and break something. It's like a gun where you can, do terrible, terrible things with it. Or in the hands of a soldier, you can free a Nazi concentration camp. It is a tool that used well can do lots of good, or it's a tool that used poorly can really harm you and the people around you with it. So understand then there is a language that can help you build wealth. And when you build wealth, when you use that money well, and when you use it as a tool and understand this language, that is when you can win at a very high level. So what are the takeaways here? I'll finish with this. The takeaways are this. If you really would like to start building wealth, one, go find some people in your world that are fairly wealthy and start asking them how they think, right? Because first you do what the wealthy do, then you learn to think like the wealthy think, right? And so when you can get in their mind and understand how they think about that, it'll change your life. Number two is start looking for undervalued assets. Look for assets where you can win when you buy. Number three, look for things that you can add value to. That's one of the things I love about real estate as well is you can add value to it. You can put an addition on a house. You could, let's say it's a 4-bedroom house, you could rent by the room and you make a lot of money. You could turn it into an Airbnb. There are lots of ways that you can add value. You can find a college town where you can rent to college students. One of my friends, I was just asking advice. So there's a place that's 9 bedrooms right next to a hospital. You can rent to travel nurses. So there's all of these options like that. So go find a place where you can add value. Those are the things that if you do those right now, you will learn how money works and you will become wealthy. Until then, until next time, post in the comments. If there's anything you'd like me to answer, hit subscribe. And yeah, if there's anything I can do to serve you, just reach out, post it there. I want to help you win. Go get it. Boom.